Lots of us plan our summer vacations around thrill-seeking activities, tempted by sights like the colorful chutes of parasailers. But carefree adventures can turn dangerous fast. Tonight, a teen survivor speaks out for the first time since her horrifying accident was captured on video. ABC's Matt Gutman brings us her incredible survival story.
It started off as a harmless adventure.
I was actually videotaping them and taking pictures. You could see them down here.
18-year-old Sidney Good and her friend Alexis Fairchild parasailing while on vacation with Sidney's parents in Panama City Beach, Florida.
You just assume that everything is safe. They tell you, they advertise it's safe, fun. Yeah, you expect that.
Fun, that's what parasailing is supposed to be, a recreational sport that gently lofts you up 500 feet over the water. But for Sidney and Alexis, the serenity of flying like a bird suddenly turned terrifying. Watch as the unthinkable happens just 13 minutes into their adventure.
It was really bad, like the feeling of the wind, and then we broke away. Like that feeling was terrible.
After winds suddenly gust, the 800-foot cable attaching the parasail to the boat suddenly snaps, flinging the girls headlong into this 13-story condominium building.
At the Commodore, and a parasail just smashed into the top of it.
People on the balconies of that condo building trying desperately to hold on to the girls to keep them from flying away.
I remember flying into the building.
You remember flying into the building?
Yeah. The only thing I felt was like the people's arms grabbed me, and then I woke up in a hospital bed with a breathing tube in.
Were you guys screaming while you were flying through the air?
Oh yeah. I honestly think all we screamed was help us, help us. Obviously, no one could have done anything at that point.
Bouncing off the condo and over it, they careened into power lines, eventually crashing down onto this parked SUV where paramedics and Sidney's father found them.
Could you tell that she was alive?
No, they had her bagged. They were bagging her. I didn't know if she was alive or not.
In critical condition, both teens were rushed to the hospital. Once there, doctors knew they only had moments to save Sidney's life.
We're talking minutes away from possibly dying.
Sidney was hooked up to a ventilator, undergoing emergency brain surgery. Those first few nights harrowing for her parents.
Even if you think that she's going to wake up and come out and breathe on her own, we didn't know if she could walk. We didn't know if she could talk. They told us she may not remember.
But 8 days after the accident, Sidney finally came to.
It was when I woke up and said that, because I had gotten off my breathing tube. I had no idea. And it just amazes me how something so bad happened to me, and I can't remember it.
And now, 1 year later, for the very first time, Sidney is sharing her story with us on that very same beach where she came so close to death.
I think about it constantly. I have reminders of it. My scars, like everything reminds me of it, and everybody always brings it up to me, so I think about it all the time.
But Sidney and Alexis's ordeal is no isolated incident. Over the past 30 years, 429 people have been seriously injured parasailing in the U.S. 73 have died. Turns out the equipment used in parasailing is not required to be inspected by any government agency. That includes the tow lines and the harness. No agency performs any kind of mandatory inspections on this safety equipment.
It's been really left up to each individual operator to define safety as they see fit, without repercussions.
Yesterday, the National Transportation Safety Board issued a stinging rebuke of the parasailing industry, accusing operators of poor judgment, lack of sufficient experience, and improper training. Now, the NTSB can only recommend that all operators be licensed by the Coast Guard, which doesn't sit well with Sidney's mom.
So when the NTSB calls for more regulations but really can't enforce them, how does that make you feel?
It makes me sick.
The Water Sports Industry Association, for its part, says it was weather and not faulty equipment that caused the accident.
Hi.
Yesterday, Sidney and her parents visited the hospital and the very doctors who had saved her life.
Hey, how are you? Good. You look great.
What did she look like when she first stepped in here?
Oh. She scared us.
You know what? You look wonderful today.
The team worked day after day to keep Sidney alive and her friend Alexis.
Sidney, what makes you cry? When you think about it?
Everything. It just amazes me that I'm here to walk and talk to them, and I'm just thankful.
When they walk in like this, it makes everything worth it. It makes everything worth it.
The girls have a long road ahead of them. Both still suffer some brain damage, according to Good's lawyer. Sidney's friend Alexis now reads at a 3rd to 4th grade reading level, while Sidney at a 5th to 6th grade level. Both she and Alexis had titanium plates and screws inserted in their heads for multiple facial fractures, and they've endured damaged optic nerves. And the trauma was so profound that Sidney had little recollection of the doctors who took care of her for weeks on end.
Sidney, how you doing?
Good. I have no idea. I don't recognize you.
You probably don't remember any of it.
No.
That's okay.
I don't know.
Saved your life.
Oh, well, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'll give you a hug. Thank you.
But Sidney did remember one doctor, Rebecca Highsong, who promised Sidney she would walk again.
You're so brave, so strong. You know that?
Yeah.
Yeah? You can do anything, right? And you have.
And that she did at her high school graduation, just shy of a year after nearly dying on that beach, flashing that sunshine smile. For Nightline, I'm Matt Gutman in Panama City Beach, Florida.